You know the name of the show. It's Vinyl Ventures, and we're back. I always say the same thing. Oh, well.
People come to be comforted by. I'm just trying to make you feel better. It doesn't matter. I mean,
it's
there's at least in one way or another there's some consistency with the show.
yeah.
I mean, you
Wheels
start
is
it.
gonna say we're back.
You start it and I end it. And but we're back with the second 50 of our essentials.
So we're on the backside.
Yes.
We're on the backside.
And it is becoming difficult.
Tougher. I really think this is more for us to see if we can do it than it is for you.
Yeah, but people seem to be enjoying it.
Yeah, so this is essential number 6,
episode 38.
So we're ready to get through albums, what?
60 through 100.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, on this show, we're just doing we're just doing albums
Use
61 through 70.
Yes. Yes, but I thought you meant like the
or
last
60
half.
through
69
or 70.
Let's not do math. I was told there'd be none.
Math is hard.
Yeah. Anywho, we've been enjoying the hell out of this. It's nice to.
They're super fun.
It is fun, and I think everybody loves a list. So why not start listing everything off? Maybe we should do the opposite of essential albums after we're done with this, like the bottom 100.
The bottom 100.
Like the most disappointing albums in the history of, recorded music. I don't know. I'm just spitballing here.
It's a show idea.
Yeah, yeah. And speaking of which, anybody that has show ideas, share them with Mr. Wheeler or me. And, we'll try to make it so. I think we're going to do a live show or a live album.
A live album, which
show.
Was a suggestion from our buddy from Canada.
Yeah. And maybe to just really go meta with that, we make it a live show.
Ooh.
You know what I mean?
That would be...
We could call it Vinyl Ventures Alive.
Yes. I like it.
What?
So we ready to dig in?
I think so. What are you going to start with?
I'm going to start with something I just recently picked up because for whatever reason, this band, their early releases were going up in price like mad, and they were super hard to find. But
there's a lot of those.
But they re-released this stuff, and without further ado, it's Smashing Pumpkins' Siamese Dream.
Nice. I know that it's a huge album for a lot of people.
I haven't even opened it yet.
I'm not really a Pumpkins guy, but
it's a really
boy, that's heavy.
It's heavy.
We've got a stand here. Is that bad? It works.
It works
on the wide shot at least.
It's going down.
Let's do that. I'll hold it. You talk about it.
There we go. So I love the cover of this because it's kind of this. It's almost like a negative of these Siamese twins, and it's kind of colorized, but it's a cool cover. That
it is cool. I think this is different than the original cover, though, right?
I think the original cover was white.
Yeah,
and this is
like metallic.
Yeah, like a metallic look. And this album came out in 1993, 83?
You need your helpers.
93. Couldn't read.
That's okay.
And this was the second release by the Smashing Pumpkins. I mean, really, I kind of like the first release the best. Ooh, look at Jay.
I'm doing the hand motions.
That's very Vanna White. Very nice.
I'm sorry, I just distracted you.
But this record, I mean, just about everybody will say this is a monumental alternative release.
Yeah.
This is where they really found their legs.
I was never a huge fan of theirs.
Really?
and I'm still not. I'm just not a huge. Billy Corgan, I think, is a musical genius and a guitar wizard, but I've just never been a fan of his voice, and it kind of turned me off. But I do like a lot of the stuff on the next record, Melancholy,
Yeah.
which also just got re-released. And I was like considering buying. I think it's a 3 record. Is this 3 records?
It's, I think, 2.
2. I was thinking about buying Melancholy. I think it was like $60 or $70 for 3 records.
If you can, what happens on a lot of these, they say available, but then it'll go on back order. Because I had it ordered, and Shane has a copy for me.
Of Melancholy?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So
Cool.
I'm going to get it.
Yeah.
And that's really my favorite. But this is, for whatever reason, people seem to love this one more.
Well, this was like, I think all of those early grunge bands, I hate calling them that now. You know, it sounded like alternative music in the early 90s, but now it just sounds like hard rock or rock and roll, really.
Yeah, that's what it's funny whenever you come up with these pigeonhole groups or buckets to put bands in that 20 years later, that's just rock.
Yeah, they don't seem to apply.
Yeah.
But what I was going to say was, I think like in 91, I remember Temple of the Dog, like right at the forefront of that grunge thing, which was like Chris Cornell and the guys in Mother Love Bone.
Yeah.
For Andy Wood. I think they made that whole album for him. Anyway, I really loved that when it came out. But even though it was on MTV and stuff, it didn't seem to take off. And then when, 10 from Pearl Jam came out, which was, I think, right on the heels of that, it took a while for that to take off. And then, that was 91. This is 93. At this point, all of those bands have knocked all of the 80s bands that were all over the radio and on MTV off the planet.
Yeah.
Literally. And this is like, I think this is probably 93 through like 95 is probably like the paramount of that movement.
Oh, without
and this
a
is
doubt.
definitely one of those records.
Yeah. It was part of the movement for sure.
And, they're back together.
They're touring with Jane's Addiction.
Not Jane's Addiction. They're touring with Porno for Pyros.
Well, they're touring with Jane's Addiction. I mean, Perry might do different versions,
Well,
but
here's the deal. Dave Navarro is still sick with COVID.
yeah.
So Perry had to bring Porno for Pyros in to be able to fulfill those shows.
Oh,
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's a recent development.
Yeah, from like the last month or so.
Yeah.
Or maybe longer than that. But yeah, that'd be a great show. I mean,
Yeah, I'd love to see that show.
are they coming anywhere near?
I think Louisville is maybe the
we'll,
closest.
We'll go.
We'll go.
We'll go. Why not? That's a good one to start out with.
Yeah, that's a good way to start the AC/DC.
This is If You Want Blood. You've got it. This is actually AC/DC's first live album, and obviously the first with Bon. And I don't know what it is about this record. I think it's just like the raw energy of it. It was released in October 78 in the U.S. On November 21, 78. This came out 6 months after Powerage did, so that was like a huge record for AC/DC. And we've talked about it before. I mean, bands making studio albums 6 months apart, or making a studio album and then a live album, and then 6 months later another studio album. I mean, it's crazy to look back on now, and I think that it's because production of these albums has become such a priority. It used to be plug a guitar in, mic the amp, and let's record.
Yeah, and that was really, I mean, that's one of the big knocks the 80s get over the 70s is overproduced records.
Yeah. But in the 70s, and the 60s, I mean, look at the Beatles, 13 albums in 8 years or whatever. But if there was ever a band that had like a formula or a recipe and stuck with it, it's these guys, and especially with Bon Scott. I mean, everything.
Absolutely.
I prefer that era, and I think it is because of that underproduced thing. But nobody has ever called any AC/DC album overproduced.
No.
But you know what? I love the cover because I just picked it up. Sorry about that. But if you look at it, his SG is going right through his abdomen, and he's got blood on his shirt. And
If you
Bond's
want
right
blood.
there. Yeah, you got it. And there he is on the back, laying on the stage with the guitar sticking out his back, which, that's some artwork. Anyway, I love the energy. I love the list of songs. It starts with Riff Raff, Hell Ain't a Bad Place to Be, Bad Boy Boogie, The Jack, Problem Child, whole lot of Rosie, which is like one of their greatest songs. Rock and Roll Damnation, High Voltage, Let There Be Rock, and Rocker.
Which live version is the best
of
on this?
I like Whole Lot of Rosie, but If You Want Blood, You've Got It. There's so much raw aggression in it.
Yeah.
And at this time, these guys were like, 25, 26 years old.
Yeah.
And just on the precipice of like blowing up worldwide with Highway to Hell. And then, of course, Bon, passes away. But as I have gotten older, I have come to really, really respect AC/DC. And it is for that reason that I just mentioned. It's guitars, bass, drums, and vocals. And most of it is blues-based guitar.
Oh, yeah.
And, you may say that some of their stuff sounds alike.
It all sounds alike, but it's awesome.
It's so good. And when I was a teenager and I was into all the bands that were huge in the 80s, I kind of turned my nose up at AC/DC, even though I did see them in 1987 with White Lion opening at
that's
Market
a good
Square
show.
Arena. That was a great show.
That was a good time to see him.
But AC/DC is just, I'm not going to put them on the same level as the Beatles, but for what they do, I don't know that there's another band that does it better.
No, and they're still putting out new music, and their new album is pretty decent. I mean, for a band that's been around that long.
For a band to be relevant, 45 years into their career. Yeah. It's incredible.
And my kids know AC/DC, and they like it.
I think everybody does.
Yeah, well, it's one of those bands, you can't go to a sporting event and not hear an AC/DC song.
No, and that's another thing. I mean, you don't hear rock music like on the radio like you used to. You don't see it on MTV. Well, MTV doesn't even exist. But the one place that you hear rock and roll anymore is at sporting events.
Yeah.
And it's Crazy Train, and it's Hell's Bells, and you know what I mean? It's kind of insane the way that rock and roll has been refolded back into our culture.
Yeah, and it has to do with, because it's, as we've mentioned many times, it has to do with rock or with music. Music is the emotion of life.
Yeah.
So they know, hey, we can really pump up the crowd with this emotion.
And I love that, but then I'm at like a football game or a basketball game, and I hear, Ozzy Osbourne, and then I hear some pop crap that's popular today. It's almost like butting heads with each other, but I guess that's what the kids like.
Yes.
What's speaking of what the kids like?
What the kids like?
What is the next one that
We're
Kid Wheeler
diving
likes?
into the bag.
That sounds kind of dirty. Oh.
Devo, Are We Not Men? And
it's just, what a great band. Another one that I didn't appreciate nearly enough.
Well, and Devo, gosh, they were making music for a long time
before they got famous.
Before anybody even knew about them. I think when everybody learned about them was when they had an appearance on SNL, and they did
with the plant pots on their head.
Well, no, this was even earlier. They were in the yellow nuclear suits, and they did Satisfaction.
Oh yeah,
It was probably
get me no.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Satisfaction.
That's a great.
I love
rendition.
that version.
Yeah.
I mean, I love that song, but that cover is one of my favorite
Yeah.
covers of that song.
Yeah. So you see, that's the thing, though. I think you are of the generation that can appreciate Devo. I was just a little bit too young. You know what I mean? When I first saw them.
Yeah.
When I saw them and Gary Newman, both bands kind of scared the hell out of me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was just almost anti-pop.
Yeah, it really was. It was the same thing that somebody like Frank Zappa was doing, but it was very different than anything else on the radio.
And these guys from Akron, right?
Yes.
Akron, Ohio.
I mean, this came out. When did this come out?
Was it 70? Was it 77?
78.
78.
Yeah. And it's, I love the cover.
Yeah, I do too. I've always thought, I'm going to put it back up there. I've always thought this is Tom Brady.
It does. It looks like Tom Brady.
Doesn't it look like Tom Brady
Yeah.
with like a, Ted Knight's hat from Caddyshack? I think it comes with a bowl of soup.
But they were, they formed in 73. This album came out, this was their first album. It came out in 78.
Yeah.
So they were making music and without a contract
Yeah.
for 5 years.
Yeah. Did Mark Mothersbaugh work for as like a jingle writer or something? Maybe I could be making that up, but
That sounds familiar. I don't know the exact history.
I know that they were playing live a lot.
Oh,
before.
yeah. They were playing
broke.
live and they were producing their own music on a little 4-track. And
Yeah. And Mothersbaugh actually still scores a lot of
Oh,
TV
yeah.
and movies. And what are some of the highlights from this record? I need to stop touching the record.
that's okay. The record likes to be touched.
Well, who can blame it? We got a bug in the studio.
Yeah, that's okay. It can fly around.
That's okay.
This, I don't have my notes handy, so I'm just going to take
Whip it out. Now you've done it. You touched it.
So, Uncontrollable Urge, which kicks off side 1, is a great song.
Okay.
It just has a really cool build up. I mean, their songs are out there,
Oh,
to say the least.
every bit of it.
Praying Hands, Space Junk, Mongoloid. I love Mongoloid. Jocko Homo. There's
Classic.
Gut Feeling, Shrivel Up, Sloppy, Too Much Paranoias.
I love some of these pictures from the inner sleeve.
Yeah, they were big into masks and like these Halloween type masks. They would just do wacky things.
I always kind of thought of them as like the art pop.
Yeah, they
group.
were.
The
I guess
70s and 80s art pop group. Like if Warhol was still what he was, at this point, I kind of
they were like
always
the
equated them.
reincarnation of I guess Captain Beefheart.
Oh, and here they are live.
Yeah, and those are the suits they wore for Satisfaction.
That's great. I mean, bands like Devo, I think, always they're shocking and unusual, and probably become famous for that. But I think what getting your brain around something like this does is it circles you back and makes you appreciate like all the other music that you loved. Does that make any sense? It kind of reminds you of the boundaries, and kind of takes you beyond what you're comfortable with, because it's certainly not a record that you would like throw on in the car and just go cruising listening to.
It's
Did I just say cruising? Is this 1956?
it's like I don't want to say a mood setting, but it is a mood. It's if you put a Pink Floyd album on to set a mood,
Yeah.
this kind of sets the mood.
Yeah. Well, that's a great pick, man. And I actually was thinking about Devo last night when I was trying to put my list together. I don't have any Devo on vinyl.
I was.
I'm devoid of Devo.
They don't pop up that much at record shows.
Huh.
You don't see that much of it. I found an eBay listing. A guy was selling like 3 or 4 albums that the vinyl was in really good shape. The covers were a little janky, but the albums sound great. So
That's awesome.
I hopped on it.
Yeah, that's great. That is a great pick. And we're going to go from
Devo to...
What was that, 1978?
Yes.
We're going to go from 1978 to...
I think
that was 1980.
1980. We're in the 80s.
I was struggling with... I think 5150 made one of my previous essentials, right?
Yes.
Sammy's... I almost called him Hammy. Hammy Sagar?
Hammy Sagar. Van Halen, by the way.
Van Halen, Women and Children First. What else can you say about Van Halen? Eddie's been gone for 2 years now. I think it's, for somebody that Van Halen was like that first band for me, like that I just really latched on to. And his death to me is tantamount to like Mozart or Beethoven dying, because what he did for rock music, stadium rock, and, you know, guitar players and, you know, gear developers. I mean, he was an inventor too.
Yeah.
And so for me, when we started talking about what's essential, the first thing that popped into my mind was those first 6 Van Halen albums. The first 4 are untouchable, I think, in quality, in musicality, in technicality. A lot of things that end with ITY.
I'm like, what? Where's he going?
But for a party band from California to go from, like, I mean, locally they were known and they had these huge parties.
Yeah.
Like hundreds and thousands of people would come to these parties. Cops would be called. Helicopters would hover over. For them to go from that to like the biggest band in the world had to be crazy.
Oh,
And so since I can't include all 4 of the first 4 albums as one, I'm going to be picking a couple because I think that they deserve to be recognized that way. And I love the cover with just this picture of Eddie playing and the guys kind of rallying around him.
And that's kind of when you think of classic Van Halen, that's the picture that comes to mind.
Yeah. And it's also interesting that all Van Halen albums with all 3 singers, actually, the first album had them on the cover. The second album had the logo on the cover. So every other album had their picture on the cover, which I don't know if that was intentional or if it's, you know, just by accident, but being a dork like I am, I've kind of noticed that. And I think they've only got 11 or 12 albums.
I wouldn't be surprised if it was intentional, knowing Eddie and how the work and everything he put into every album.
Yeah.
And I've come to appreciate Van Halen a lot more doing this show and talking to you.
That's good. I think that I think more people are appreciating the band every day.
Yeah.
When somebody with a profile like that passes away, it's a shame because it brings more attention back to them, and then an appreciation kind of bubbles up that maybe wasn't there before. But there's not much that I can say. I mean, this band, I remember most people from around here went to Washington, D.C. in middle school.
Yeah.
And in 1988 is when I went, and their album with Sammy, OU812, came out. And I had the Walkman and I had the headphones, and I literally listened to that record on repeat over and over and over again. And before that, my family used to go to Hilton Head, South Carolina for summer break. And, I went to a record store and they had some used Van Halen cassettes. And this is probably like 1985. And I bought as much Van Halen cassettes as I could. And again, just listen to that Walkman over and over. But this starts with Tora Tora and The Cradle Will Rock, which was kind of like the big hit from this. Romeo Delight, Fools, In a Simple Rhyme. Take Your Whiskey Home is like my favorite on here. And I love this picture on the back too. With the guys kind of right next to him, and Eddie's like pointing at you like, you're going to be spending all your extra cash on records from us. Just watch out. That's what
Watch out.
But yep, Van Halen. Women and Children First.
That is a great pick.
And as a little visual treat, I brought my original copy.
Ooh.
This is the new remastered copy.
They kept it pretty true.
Yeah, they did. It's interesting that the green on the original is a little more green.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's interesting. Van Halen didn't do the hey, we're remastering and re-releasing stuff. They just, after a few years they got re-released, and kind of I kept the hype sticker, obviously.
Yeah, because their classic albums came out when vinyl was king.
Yeah. And this new one does sound better. It's got a little more harumph in it, but all of those original Van Halen records just sound so good.
They really do, because there's not really quiet moments in a Van Halen
Well, there's
record.
not, and at least the first four, maybe the first six, they're separated. So I think Eddie is on the left track, the bass is on the right, and vocals are spread between. And so it's interesting if you do have headphones on, and one of them's not working, or there's a short, and you only hear one side, you're just going to hear bass and vocals, or bass drums and vocals. So it was an interesting way for the guys that produced those Van Halen albums, Ted Templeman and I think Don Landy. It was an interesting way for them to mix the music. So, all right, man, what's your next one?
All right, so let's see. What am I going to go with?
Oh,
I said I was going to have a Rolling Stone album on the rest of the shows.
Yeah.
Let It Bleed.
Why not? I love the cover, man. It's just
The cake.
the cake with the film canister, and then it looks like a clock and a pancake.
Yeah.
Is that a motorcycle tire?
Probably.
And then the record, and then the old Victrola needle or whatever it is.
And this was during the high creative period of the Rolling Stones. I mean, Let It Bleed, Love in Vain, Midnight Rambler, Give Me Shelter. You got the silver. You can't always get what you want. Live With Me, Monkey Man,
Oh, Monkey Man's
and
great
Country
song.
Honk. I mean,
Yeah.
again, there's so many amazing songs on this record.
And I think you just said it, and you didn't even realize you said it. The high creative period.
Yes.
I think there was some chemical embellishment going on.
Oh yeah, but
But they made it through.
yeah, they made it through.
Well, Brian Johnson did, or Brian Jones didn't. But
Yeah.
Way to bring it down, Jay.
Nice. But this is I think this is one of the ones I got when I was in college, and for whatever reason I could get these imports for a lot less than the American pressing.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
So it's made in Germany.
Oh, that's cool.
But it was strange that this record store would have like all these, maybe they could only get the imports. And at that time, the imports were not like, oh, you got to have the import. So I have a lot of these German pressings and Portugal pressings of like some classic albums.
Yeah, that's great. Where was this record store? Was it at school?
It was no, it was in college. It was at the mall. I worked at Record Bar in the mall, and I think it was Disc Jockey.
Oh yeah, you've mentioned that before. Yeah. I had Disc Jockey, Music Land, and National Record Mart. There were 3 record stores in the mall that by me, and I worked in one of them eventually at Music Land. So
I mean, think about that. You know, that tells you how much vinyl was out there. Enough that a mall would have 3 stores selling just records. Now you're lucky to find one in a mall. You're lucky to find a mall.
you're lucky to find a record store in like a town. I mean,
Yeah.
almost.
They're coming back,
yeah.
but
Yeah, it is kind of crazy how how much it permeated suburbia.
yeah.
If there are 3 options like that, and there was always another record store outside of the mall that opened up. I think,
if you couldn't find a record at one store, you'd go to the other one and you'd find it.
yeah. Days gone by, man. That's a great call.
Yeah.
I don't think I've had a Rolling Stones record on mine because I know
That's okay. I'll cover them.
Yeah, you'll cover it. We won't cross over there. My next one is somebody that I've talked about a lot, and I'm going to keep talking about. This might be one of the best first albums ever, and it's Elvis Costello, My Aim Is True. Kind of an iconic cover.
This cover is definitely, I mean, if people talk about the emergence of punk, new wave music, this album cover is constantly used.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, I think I've said it before, but I'll give you the short version. I loved Buddy Holly as a kid, and I listened to him constantly because my mom loved Buddy Holly. I think I actually listened to Buddy on 8-track more than I did on vinyl.
Interesting.
But, and my mom had a bunch of Beatles records that I tore the hell out of too. Zing! I got it in there. That hasn't made an appearance in the last couple episodes.
Yeah.
We took a hiatus. Anyway, I loved Buddy. And for some reason, the first time that I saw Elvis with the horn-rimmed glasses and the guitar, of course he plays a Jaguar most of the time and not a Strat like Buddy. But he always reminded me of Buddy Holly, just visually.
Has he ever mentioned that?
No, I don't know that now for the Beatles, they were huge Buddy Holly fans, and I know that the Stones were too.
Yeah.
I don't know about Elvis or Declan, but I didn't really come to loving Elvis Costello until about 94 when Brutal Youth came out, and then I just like absorbed everything that he did. And I have said, like, one of the best 2.5 minutes in rock and roll is the first song, Welcome to the Working Week.
Oh, yeah.
And it just kicks you in the face, and it's over with.
Yeah.
And I love the picture on the back of the record, too. It's just him, over the yellow background. There's Allison is on here. Angels Want to Wear My Red Shoes, Mystery Dance. This is kind of a greatest hits.
Yeah.
For Elvis Costello.
It really put him on the map.
It did.
I mean, when you come out with an album like this out of the gate, you're cemented in music history.
For sure. And, I've made my admiration for him well known on this show. So if you haven't checked this record out, go buy it. You'll love it. And if you don't, Wheels will give you your money back.
Yeah, if you're just going to get, well, maybe. But if you're just going to get one Elvis Costello album, that's the one to get.
Yeah. And then what'll happen is you'll buy all the rest of them. I think I bought, I don't think this is an original press. This is a Columbia press.
Yeah.
So it was probably 5 or 6 years. So this was probably early 80s pressing. His catalog's been re-released a lot. I've got this, and I've got a Repop. The Repop sounds good. I'm not one of those people that is going to put 2 different pressings on and be able to pluck all of the details and things like that out of it.
Yeah.
Some people can, and I'm certainly not going to spend more on a stylus than I did on my turntable like some people do. But Elvis Costello, he's great.
All right, so it's back to me. Let's see what I'm going to grab. I should prepare for my grabs.
I was just talking about trying not to grab before the show started.
So, you knew it was going to happen. Jane's Addiction, nothing shocking. See, I had to do the whole Jane's Addiction Smashing Pumpkins tour on the same show.
Yeah, you're bringing it back.
Yeah. So when this, much like you and Van Halen listening to it nonstop, I remember I was at we were at Thunder on the Ohio in Evansville.
Oh,
And I was out of school, but I still had a lot of friends in Evansville. And it was, I think, 89, and my buddy Brian had a Suzuki Jeep we were riding around in, and we listened to this.
Suzuki Sidekick?
No, it was Samurai.
Samurai. Okay.
Yeah, so we listened to this. That's all we listened to the whole time.
Yeah.
A whole weekend, one record, just over and over. And Brian was the kind of guy that would play a song over and over, but it was fine.
Yeah.
It was perfect.
I love the cover of this, and I love the cover of Ritual, just because they are, I mean, visually shocking.
Yeah.
Even though this is saying nothing's shocking.
Guess what?
It
It's
is.
shocking. And it's a little bit like Devo because it looks a little fakeish. You know,
Mhm.
their hair is on fire and you're not even sure if they're real nudes,
Yeah.
which we'll have to put a little bar.
I think our audience can handle boobs.
Don't be offended.
Yeah. Everybody's got boobs.
Yes.
Boobs. It's fun to say.
And this has I'm going to say the quintessential Jane's Addiction song,
Jane says.
Jane Says.
Yeah.
And it's the second to the last cut on the second side, which is, to put your most popular song that far down the list, it's kind of
It is
it's
weird.
strange.
Yeah. But maybe they didn't expect, I mean, maybe it wasn't something that they really expected that people would just go crazy for. I don't know.
Yeah, it's strange because really the whole first side, I mean, it ends with Standing in the Shower Thinking, which if you're a Jane fan, you know that song.
Yeah. And this is actually their first full studio album, right?
Yes,
Because the first
yes.
record was an EP that was live,
Yeah. That
Right.
was their first one on Triple X, but this was really the first.
widely released.
Yes.
Yeah. That's cool. I've never really even noticed. I love the picture of them on the back. They're probably out in the middle of the desert experimenting. But I've never noticed, is this a close up of a cow or a
Yeah, there was.
Dalmatian?
I
or-
think there was there's probably a version of this, a repop, where it's actual.
felt.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
actual
that's cool.
felt.
Yeah, man. I do appreciate them for sure. But again, I think you were introduced to them at an age that would have been better for,
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
absolutely.
It was brand new when you first heard them.
Yeah,
For me, I was kind of behind the ball. And I was kind of behind the ball on a lot of that big air quotes alternative stuff. But man, like I said, genres are there for, maybe organizational purposes at a record store, but otherwise it's just music, right?
yeah. It. I mean, really, when they Jane's Addiction formed in '85, and it's that same story. I mean, it doesn't seem to be the story that we hear now, but I mean, in those days, it took bands a while to take off.
Yeah. Yeah. And they had a couple albums worth of chances,
Yeah.
and it's not that way at all now. So that's cool, man. I figured that would
It was going to
pop up.
happen. Yeah.
You just made mention of one of my favorite dudes.
Zappa.
Yeah, this is Zappa in New York. This is a 3-record set. Let me pull it up here because there's some details. This was recorded in December of 1976 at a series of concerts at the Palladium in New York. It was not generally available until March 1978. The reason that I chose in New York is because I believe it's over 3 concerts. And if you want to hear what Zappa was doing and what that band was doing and what they were capable of doing and how he interacted with the audience, you got to listen to this. This popped up on one of our groups for like $19 for a triple album, like 2 years ago, and I got it. It's Zappa at, I think, probably their height, because there's a new Zappa doc that I think I mentioned on the last show. It's called Zappa. It's directed by Alex Winter. If you get a chance, watch that, because there's so much footage of the Mothers and Zappa in their earliest days playing live, and it was like an art experience. It was dance and all kinds of crazy stuff. But one of the best things about this record, as I turn it around, is one of my favorite Zappa songs, Titties and Beer, is what opens the first record. And it's, it goes from there. I mean, the music is impeccable. The musicianship is crazy. And the banter from the stage, from Frank to the people, it's great. I mean,
I love those on live shows where they include the banter. It doesn't get cut out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it really takes you to that moment. You feel like you're in the show.
Yeah. And this crowd, this crowd was probably a lot of the same people over the 3 days. Or whatever.
Okay. So it's over 3 days.
Yeah. Or maybe a week. But gosh, it's so good. You can't, explaining Zappa to somebody that's not a Zappa fan is damn near impossible. I kind of feel, I've always said, I kind of feel like people are born. I kind of feel like the Beatles are in everybody's DNA, whether you're born in the U.S. or Africa or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it just seems like they are.
Yeah, absolutely.
Their songs are otherworldly to the point, to me at least, there's something larger going on there. And I kind of, not on the same level and certainly not the same style, I kind of feel like Zappa was some undescribable force of nature. I mean, if you watch that doc, I mean, they're interviewing him in multiple settings, and he's got paper and he's composing while the interview is going on. Or, I mean, who does that?
And he was a very cerebral dude.
Yeah. I mean, I think he died at 50 when he was 53. So I think he died in 93. Man, that was way too young.
I
for a
blame
guy.
Tipper Gore, because when Zappa went to Congress to testify about the sticker,
PMRC.
Yeah, Tipper Gore was pushing that so hard. And I remember seeing that on MTV, seeing the discussion, and it's like, I cannot stand Tipper Gore. I hate Al Gore for that very reason.
What caught my attention in those hearings was Dee Snider.
Dee, yeah.
He came in to those hearings, and they all expected this dude with this like long, curly blonde hair and makeup, and he came in with like the hair. I think he came in with his hair pulled
ponytail
down
and a suit.
And
yeah,
he may have had a jean jacket on or whatever, but he's a really smart guy too, and I think that completely threw everybody off.
A friend of mine who vacations to Costa Rica occasionally, Dee Snider is always there.
Huh.
I think he has a house down there, so he's going down there a lot. And Tim has been on the plane with Dee several times.
Most people don't realize that Dee wrote all of Twisted Sister's songs. I mean, he wrote them all. They were a band for like 7-8 years. Why are we talking about Twisted Sister and Zappa? Anyway.
We got twisted.
Yeah. Anyway, Zappa holds a really special place in my heart. And again, like the Devo, when I listen to this, I feel like it just opens doors in my brain that I didn't know were there.
Yeah.
You know?
And the songs are so detailed in what they're talking about that you have to listen to them
Yeah.
a few times to really get the story.
Yeah, I mean, the second Titties and Beer is the first song, and the second song on here is called "I Promise Not to Come in Your Mouth."
There was a reason Frank was in that hearing.
Oh, what's your next one?
Next on the list. Another big one. This may break our little stand.
Nah, it's gonna work.
Wilco, Yankee Hotel Foxtrot, which is what is that alphabet called?
Is it the military or I can't remember.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a military alphabet.
John, we know music. We don't know.
Yeah, we don't know. We don't know that.
We don't know language.
But the probably the big one on this that people will know that actually got quite a bit of airplay. Heavy Metal Drummer,
Mm-hmm.
and this is a 4 LP set because
This is
two
okay.
LP
Okay.
because it came out in the CD age.
Yeah,
So,
because this says it includes the whole album on CD.
yeah,
Cool. Yeah, it's funny because where our musical interests cross is there between Wilco and Jayhawks. I'm on Team Jayhawks. You're on Team Wilco.
yeah.
Gary Louris and Jeff Tweedy are together in the supergroup Golden Smog,
Yeah.
which may make an appearance on my next list. It almost did today.
But I love the cover because it's a Chicago skyline and of these couple of residential condos.
Yeah.
Tweedy, they just did something this summer where they did a couple of concerts in Chicago and they had a pop-up store. You could get Tweedy flakes. You could get all kinds of stuff.
Oh, did your daughter go to that?
No, she was telling me about it.
Oh, okay. Okay, cool. How many records do these guys have? Do you know?
Whew. They're still putting out records.
Yeah.
I don't know. I have no idea.
They seem to be pretty steady with their releases,
Yeah.
for sure. And I think Tweedy's like completely sober now too, isn't he?
Yeah, I believe so. And this was a None Such, which is a great label. It's probably
There you go.
it's probably a repop.
Yeah.
I'm sure it is.
Can I see?
Yeah.
Let's see.
Came out in 2020. The repop.
Yep. This originally came out in 2002.
Yeah.
Huh. I didn't realize it was 20 years old. That's pretty cool.
And it was, I mean, when Pearl Jam was kind of getting really big, Wilco was getting really big.
Yeah. Yeah. That's another band that I just need to kind of dig into that I look at all the records I have now and all the CDs I have and I still go, man, I don't have anything to listen to. Since you can listen to anything for free now, I need to start prioritizing that.
And it's one of those I didn't have to have on vinyl, but I really wanted.
The way I approached when this wave started cresting is I spent those years between like 1990 and 2002 or 3 only buying CDs, So when the records were coming back, I was filling in those gaps with everything that I had bought on CD that I loved. Unfortunately, I like so much. If I were to replace every CD with an album, I'd go broke, and maybe I'm halfway there.
Yeah, and I've done that a few times.
Yeah.
Where I own stuff on CD, vinyl, and then vinyl again.
Yeah.
Because I get the latest and greatest.
Yeah. Like
issue.
Ziggy, like the newest
Yeah,
Ziggy that
like
just came
Ziggy.
out. Which have you gotten that?
No.
Oh, it does sound much better
Yeah.
than than the previous.
And a lot of those new issue remasters are that way.
Yeah, I think they half-speed master most of those now.
Yeah.
Like Pink Floyd, Beatles, Bowie.
If you're
It's-
really into the band, it's well worth
Yeah.
getting.
Yeah. Well, it's funny that we mentioned getting something on vinyl that I had on CD that I loved. This is one that I really wanted for a long time.
Oh, Green Day, American
And,
Idiot.
Yeah. I mean, we don't have to spend too much time on it. Man, it looks good against that background, though.
It does.
I think this came out in 2000? Sorry, I took that away. Well, you know what? I've got my information right here, and I'll look it up. Wow.
We were doing the X Fest shows, the kind of green room interviews,
Mm-hmm.
and so I got to see Green Day from the stage,
Oh,
which was pretty cool.
and those shows were huge
Yeah,
back then.
They were
Believe it or
loaded.
not, this is 2004.
yeah.
Yeah. This is it's just a great record. I wasn't a huge fan of Green Day, and this is a theme throughout. When Dookie came out, which was not technically their first album, when that was their first major release, when it came out, I was not a huge fan. And I really wasn't a fan until Warning came out, which was like a complete Warning was so different from what they had been doing. That pop punk element is still there, but I remember listening to Warning and thinking, man, these guys are starting to sound like the Beatles, because I really think they may be the closest thing in pop music. And I'm not saying they're as good as the Beatles. I'm saying from a stylistic writing point of view, short to the point songs for the most part. I don't know that you can beat like American Idiot and then the one right after this, which was 21st Century Breakdown or 21st Century, I can't remember. Anyway, it's just a great album, released in 2004. Let me bring...
And there's probably not a song on this album that is over 4 minutes long.
Maybe not. I know what I loved about this was it's a concept album, and my idea of a concept album is, Tommy by the Who, Quadrophenia, The Wall.
Yeah.
There's so many Pink Floyd records that are technically concept albums. I can't even mention them all, but to be able to write hooky, good music like this and be able to weave it together thematically for a narrative, that blows my mind. And there aren't many bands that have done it successfully.
No, they were kind of a reincarnation of the Clash in a way.
Yeah. I mean, a three-piece Clash for sure. The other concept album that I think just really shines on its own is Queensryche's Operation Mindcrime, which I think was already on one of my essentials. So obviously I like those
concept albums.
Well, I mean, I think it's a funny idea and it's an off-putting idea, but when it's done this well, and most people may not even know that it is.
I didn't know it was.
Yeah. And and the next one's a concept record too. When it's done that well and it's like not in your face, I think that soaks in without you being conscious of it.
Well, and I think it makes sense for bands to do that because they're writing about stuff that they like.
When it's not like in your face and presented that way, I think it's a lot different than, all the marketing and things coming at you.
Yeah, like
hey,
something like Tommy.
Yeah.
Which is like...
And I am one of those people that believes that Quadrophenia is superior to Tommy. But
I agree.
that may be an unpopular opinion, but that's what I think.
Well, on that note...
Yeah. Some hoity-toity talk.
Okay. So we're going to do... This was not a concept album.
Well, I don't want to hear it.
You
or
have
talk
to.
about it. Okay. Be careful there.
Black Flag.
Oh boy,
And
that's damaged.
damaged. Yes, it is. And I remember when I got this, I was just totally obsessed with it.
Yeah,
This was, and I think Black Flag would still be punk
oh, I think so
without
too.
a doubt.
Yeah.
I mean, their stuff has not, where some music like the Ramones, I don't think people call that punk as much. It's more rock and roll.
Right, but the Ramones were the original punks.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
But I mean, Black Flag had such a hard edge that
Yeah.
it maintained.
yeah.
And I mean,
I always remember hearing about these guys in the 80s and like thinking that these guys were like pretty damned hardcore.
yeah,
And they were.
yeah. And well, Henry, it's funny because Henry was part of that DC scene,
Mm-hmm.
and he moved to LA and became part of that scene.
Yeah. Bicoastal punk.
He's a bicoastal punk.
You know, Henry, if you're listening or watching, why don't you come on the show?
Yes.
We're not going to beg you.
Henry would be a whale to have on the show. But I mean, and I don't know for sure, but I would almost guarantee none of these songs are much over 3 minutes.
Probably not.
Rise Above, Spray Paint, Six Pack. I love Six Pack. It's a great song. TV Party, another great song. And they're kind of, at times, they're kind of talk singers.
Yeah. Of course you like TV Party.
Yes. Gimme, gimme, gimme. Gimme some more.
Louie is on this too.
Yes. Which, I mean, that's the one.
It says Louie included. It's not even a hype sticker. It's actually printed on
Yeah,
the,
it's printed on there. It's
on
a
the cover.
permanent hype sticker.
Yeah. What year was this released? Do you know?
This-
I can
Yeah,
look.
you look because you can see better than me.
1980? Is that
Yeah.
right? Wow, I didn't
I was going
realize.
to say 79 or 80.
I didn't realize it was that early. Cool.
But I mean, there's not much to say about this
No,
other than this cover is a little bit different than the rest of
whoa.
Black Flag albums, because the rest of them kind of have this Raymond Pettibone artwork
Yeah.
on them,
Yeah.
and they're very, I don't want to say cartoony, but it's, it's a cartoon-like cover.
Yeah.
But this one's not. And the Black Flag 4 bars.
Yeah.
There's a lot of kids with that tattoo.
Oh, I'm sure. How did you first hear about these dudes? Because
Well,
they were kind of an underground band.
Yeah. When you're hanging out with people who are in the same kind of music, you just are like, "Do you have Black Flag?"
Yeah. Yeah.
And
there were underground newspapers and magazines.
yeah, there
and-
was a magazine called Trouser Press that kind of catered to new wave punk music, and this thing blew up so big that it kind of took off the Southern California punk scene
Yeah.
and
That's
music
cool.
scene. I mean,
Yeah.
there were surf punk bands coming up. I mean, they opened the door for a lot of bands.
Yeah. That's cool. That's weird. Two punk bands right in a row.
I know, it's hard to believe.
One is pop punk. These guys are not.
Damaged.
Damaged. And it's it is
And you're
not
up.
damaged. So it's funny you brought Devo. Make sure I'm putting this up right. This is Modest Mouse, Strangers to Ourselves. And I love the cover because it's like a suburban neighborhood from above.
Wow, I did not expect you to bring Modest Mouse.
And obviously, I love the hype sticker because it's square or diamond in this case. This band, when I remember when I first heard this band, I'm like, this is Talking Heads all over again.
Yeah.
Like, and maybe even weirder if it could.
Yeah, when
possibly
did this
be.
one come out?
Well, this came out in 2015, believe it or not. So it's only 7 years old.
and they're another band that they've continued to release music after. What is the? Oh, I can't remember the name of the album. The one with the arrows. That album came out the same time as the Wilco
Yeah.
album.
Yeah. But I remember I heard the song off this, which is Lampshades on Fire. And I was like, I mean, I loved the last one. When I heard Lampshades on Fire, I was hooked for sure. I mean, they're just a great band, and it's one of those bands, again, that kind of opens the mind. You know, it's not typical pop music. It's certainly not typical rock music, and there's like an art element to it that, you know, makes it just weird enough, you know, to push it away from mainstream. But then in doing so, they became very popular with that previous album that we can't remember the name of, and this one. And they've got a few other records, you know, that are out there.
Yeah,
sure.
they have a pretty big discography.
I love the band.
Modest Mouse.
Yeah, and then Strangers to Ourselves, Strangers Backwards. Interesting.
Nice.
They're just a cool band. Just
Yeah.
Definitely off the beaten path. You didn't expect me to have that one?
No. Well,
I'm glad that after this long I can surprise you.
that was a surprise. I'm going to do the beaten path.
Oh boy.
Springsteen, Born to Run. And
One of the best album covers in ever.
yes, it's just, we say it all the time, it's an iconic album cover.
Yeah.
I mean, when you think of Bruce Springsteen, you either think of this or Born in the USA.
Mm-hmm.
And I wouldn't call myself a massive Springsteen fan, but if I'm telling somebody, hey, you got to have one Springsteen record, this is it.
I think so too.
Yeah, Born to Run is just, I mean, this just kicks out.
Hi, Clarence.
It kicks off with classic Springsteen.
That's my favorite Springsteen song, by the way. Thunder Road.
Thunder Road.
Yeah.
10th Avenue Freeze Out. I love that
Yeah.
song.
Born to Run.
Night, Backstreets. And again, you know, Born to Run is not buried, but it's not at the top of the list.
Yeah. It's a great album, man. I mean, I remember, you know, 84, 85, I would have been 10, 11. And that's when Born in the USA blew up. And I became a Springsteen fan, like,
Yeah.
huge Springsteen fan. He played at the Hoosier Dome, which became the RCA Dome in Indianapolis. He played at the Hoosier Dome for the Born to Run tour. And me, my mom and dad, and my sister were supposed to go, but my sister had a band thing. So me, my mom, and my cousin and one of her friends from IU came up to go to the show. And that was like the first enormous show that I had been to. I mean, I'd been to concerts before that, but that on that scale, I think that place held maybe 40 or 50,000 people.
Oh, yeah.
And it was awesome. And then I started digging into the Springsteen thing, and after Born to Run, they released that live box set Springsteen, which was, I think, 75 to 85. So it was, you know, 4 or 5 records. I had it on cassette, but my wife's aunt and uncle just gave me all their records a few years ago, and that box set is in there. So that's pretty cool too.
And Springsteen's one of those artists that seeing them live is the way to go.
Yeah.
I've never seen Springsteen live.
Oh, you got to.
I was like a outlier fan.
Yeah.
And I just never got around to going to the shows.
They almost always play like 3.5 hours.
Yeah, they play long shows.
And he's like 72.
Yeah.
Looks good for his age. Just as you did not expect me to bring Modest Mouse, I certainly didn't expect you to have Bruce Springsteen in your
Well,
bag of
and
tricks.
it's maybe not my personal essential.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's an essential album that if you're building a record collection, you got to have this one in it.
It belongs to the zeitgeist. I don't know. That's great. And I love this hype sticker. It's that like metallic Square, the way God intended hype stickers to be.
I got this one at at the Antique Mall in Noblesville, where we now have a booth.
Did you?
Yeah, and you were with me. It was when we were first picking records early.
Oh, okay. Before the prices just flew
before the
through
prices
the roof?
went through the roof, and
Yeah.
it was like $8,
Oh my gosh.
and we're like, I think it's a reprint. That's all right.
Yeah. And it's 180 gram.
Yeah,
I love it, man. That's my favorite Springsteen for sure. Speaking of 80s rock, Mr. Big, these guys, this is kind of a super group. Paul Gilbert on guitar, Billy Sheehan on bass, who played bass for David Lee Roth's band after he left Van Halen. Pat Torpey playing drums. And who am I missing? Oh, Eric Martin, the singer, who I think was Canadian and was kind of like a Canadian teen singer star. This is Mr. Big's second record, and this just came out on Record Store Day 2021. This is 180 grams solid red vinyl of Lean Into It. And if you don't know this record, just go buy it. And if you don't like it, Wheels will give you your money back. There's
I've got a lot of commitments.
You better start saving. Daddy, Brother, Lover, Little Boy starts it off. Alive and Kickin'. Greenton and 60s Mind is the third song, and that song alone is worth the price of admission. This is a very 80s back cover.
Oh yeah,
for sure. But if you don't know Paul Gilbert, he is like a phenom on guitar, and the guy can play anything. He had a band called Racer X before Mr. Big that was kind of like speed metal thrash, so that's kind of where he started, but he can play in any style. And if you check him out on YouTube, he's entertaining as hell. But all of these guys, Pat Torpey has since passed away, the drummer. But it's just a great record. I love the cover. It's like
the cover is awesome.
Like, Penn Station or Grand Central Station with a train through the wall falling onto the ground. And look at that hype sticker.
The square.
Yeah, this is one that I've wanted on vinyl for a long time. And then when the RSD 21 list came out and I saw that, I'm like, okay, yep.
I'm getting that.
There goes $35.
That's a good one.
No reason to belabor it. I just love the record.
Well.
Oh, and it came out in 91, by the way.
Let's kind of stay in that area.
Oh.
New, not even opened.
Nice. Fresh.
Nirvana, Nevermind.
Okay, never mind.
Never mind. What can you say about this? It spawned a whole music genre.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, they were not the inventors of the genre, but they really helped.
They were the poster children.
Yeah, they catapulted Seattle to every American's radio.
Yeah, yeah. It's a great record. I've said it before. I wasn't a Nirvana fan on this record because it was everywhere, and I think I was the same way with Soundgarden, Pearl Jam. Most of those bands I was like second record on, but in listening back to this, I absolutely love it. And is there a more Seattle or grunge band photo on any record than this photo of the three of them that is absolutely blurred out and you can't see any details about who's who or what
that
they
could
look
just
like?
be three random dudes.
Yeah,
We don't know.
yeah. But what a great record. I mean, again, like a greatest hits.
Yeah, and this was their second record, which a lot of people don't even realize.
Yeah, Bleach was number one.
And they really, I'm not a big fan of Bleach.
There's a couple songs I like.
They really refined their sound and production. Everything sounded like it. They really made progress. Well, the first album was just a sub pop release.
Yep. This is actually produced and engineered by Butch Vig.
Oh, Butch.
From Garbage, the drummer in Garbage, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And Butch was producing a lot of alternative bands at the time.
Yep.
I mean, it was when you make your name on this.
Yeah.
hey, let's work with Butch.
Yeah, and can you imagine being a producer who most producers, if you don't know, most producers either get paid flat fees to produce for a band, which is an amount, and that can be a big amount, or if it's an unknown band, it can be a small amount. But a lot of producers make agreements that they will take points on the sales of the records. So if Butch took points on the sales of Nevermind, he's doing okay.
Yeah. Butch can cover my fee.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
you buy something you don't want it.
Yeah.
We'll
And
contact Butch.
I hate to keep pointing it out, but that round hype sticker is unacceptable.
Verboten. Well, and this cover is another one of those. If the album's not in your 100 essential, the cover is so well known. I mean, the kid was suing.
Yeah. Like 6 years ago, he was talking about how it's like enhanced his life to be known as the kid that was on this cover. And like 2 years ago, he was suing the band for child exploitation or some bullshit. And it's like, that's either way is fine. Just make up your mind.
Yeah.
Or just never mind.
And I don't think there's a soul on the planet who doesn't know this album cover. But if you don't, it's a baby underwater chasing a dollar bill
on a fish hook. You know the original title to this?
No.
Baby Dick. I'm kidding.
That was a Zappa title. We're mixing them up. But I mean, if an album's going to kick off with a song like "Smells Like Teen Spirit," which
you're in for a ride.
Yeah, you're in for a ride, and it doesn't get better from there, but it just keeps going pretty smooth.
For me, and I'll just make this a very quick story. I was not a fan until In Utero. Again, because this song was all over the goddamn radio, all over MTV, all over everywhere. You couldn't escape it. And it wasn't like, I'm not going to listen to this because I'm hearing it everywhere. It was subconscious. But after In Utero came out, and I was blown away by Heart-Shaped Box, which was the first song on that record. Then I kind of circled back to this, which ended up being 3 years after, and it was right before Kurt died. I bought In Utero in 94, the spring of 94, and circled back to this, but years have gone by, 30 years, and it's just undeniably a great sounding, hooky, well-written record.
Oh, yeah.
And again, no songs over 3 or 4 minutes, and to be able to do that at that age and for it to stand the test of time like it has, it's pretty impressive.
Yeah, because they were young dudes at the time when this came out. And it came out, I mean, everybody says Nirvana in the 90s, but it came out in 89.
Did it?
I believe so.
91.
91, sorry.
Yeah.
If I would have looked at
Still,
my list.
Yeah.
But they started in the late 80s.
Right.
Yeah.
And like you said, I mean, Bleach, I like Bleach because when you listen back to it, people really didn't hear about Bleach until after this came out.
No.
You listen to that, and it's like ferocious. I mean, Bleach is a pretty heavy record in comparison.
Oh, yeah.
So that's a cool pick, man. I'm going to go the exact opposite way. And most people are going to go, why are you picking a Phil Collins album I've never heard of? This is Dance Into the Light.
That's what I'm saying.
This came out in October 96. I was working at a record store. I was working at CM Goody in downtown Indy at the Circle Center Mall at that time. And this came out, and we had a promo of it, and I played it every damn day, and that's why it's an essential record for me. This is a repop that came out in 2015. I don't know why this one's stuck with me. I think it might be because it's a little more upbeat than most of Phil's solo stuff. I mean, the Genesis stuff can go anywhere from like super weird, proggy to very poppy. And I think that that's a cool spectrum for a band like Genesis, especially after Peter Gabriel goes and,
Yeah.
blows up on his own. But Dance Into the Light, that's what you said. Lorenzo. I mean, every song on this is great. And when I heard it, it just doesn't have that like heavy feeling like a lot of his solo. Not all of his solo stuff, but
It's
In the Air Tonight.
Yeah, it's
and-
more upbeat.
Yeah, it's just more upbeat, and obviously he's dancing into the light. And I believe they reprinted all of his solo stuff in 2015 and re-released it all. So he recreated all those covers at that time.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so like the No Jacket Required and Face Value, they retook the covers and put those on those reissues, which I think is kind of cool.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
I like Repops having a different cover.
Oh yeah, yeah. And last night I was sitting around thinking of maybe a theme for this batch of Essential albums, and that didn't happen. And then I was like, I think I bought this at Irvington Vinyl, like when they were closing,
Oh, yeah.
like 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, that I love that album. I have it on CD. And the other thing I love, first of all, I love Orange. The other thing I love is like, if that's sitting on your shelf, you can go, oh, there's Dance Into the Light.
It's easy to find.
Yeah. So
That's a good pickup.
that's probably unexpected as well.
Yeah, I did not expect Phil Collins to be on your list.
Phil Collins, Modest Mouse.
Well, we've had a lot of nudity
Titties and beer.
and language.
Nothing shocking.
So let's keep it up. The Pixies,
Oh,
Surfer Rosa.
yeah. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not a huge Pixies fan.
You're
I
not?
know so little about them. I mean,
Really?
yeah, it's Francis though, right?
Yeah.
Francis Black.
Black Francis.
Black Francis.
But yeah, it's I don't know, when the Pixies came, I've got all their stuff on CD, so I've started, if I see something pop up at a reasonable price, I'll get the LP.
I'm kind of feeling something popping up.
Oh. It must be the cover. We better turn it around.
Exactly.
And this is the original cover.
Yeah, because there was an edited cover
Yes.
after this originally got released, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to blame Tipper Gore.
What was the edited version? Did it not even have the picture?
That I don't know.
Oh, okay. Well, we can. I'm surprised it doesn't show you there.
Yeah, I don't know for sure.
Why the Pixies? I mean,
They had a sound that was very, not totally different, but his voice was kind of different than anything else out
Yeah.
there. And I don't know, they just really resonated with me. It was when the Pixies were really taking off. It was a period when I was just starting to work full time.
yeah.
So I didn't have as much time for music as I had in the college days.
I get it. I mean, you can't explain why a band just like clicks with you. According to Wikipedia, they have 7 studio albums and 17 live albums.
There's a lot of Pixies out there.
No, this is their first record. Yeah, released March 21, 1988. So there you have it.
And this came out right as I was shifting my buying habits from vinyl to CD.
Oh, yeah. So you never got it on record.
Yeah, so I didn't bother with vinyl. At that time, I thought, vinyl's dead. I'm moving to CDs.
Len, you were right.
And now,
I'm going to go from buying vinyl, which has become affordable, to CDs, which are completely overpriced, illegally,
yes.
mind you. The other thing that's interesting to me is the cover, and obviously she's not wearing a shirt, but all of the verbiage on the bottom of it, it just says Pixies right there, and then on the spine there doesn't appear to be anything.
And I don't think the original was like this. I think the original was just the picture with the Pixies over here.
Huh. Okay. Cool. Well, again, I'll add that to my list of bands that I should probably check out.
Well, and the Pixies are one of those bands. I don't think any of their music sounds different. It's kind of the same thing.
They do what they do.
Rinse and repeat.
Yeah.
It's Bone Machine. I love that song. That's the first song on the record.
Cool. I'll have to check them out. I know Frank Black because like the mid 90s to early 2000s, he was more of a solo artist. He released, I think he had an album called Teenager of the Year.
Yeah, and then he's got the band back together and they're playing.
Yeah. Is it a mission from God though?
It's not a mission from God.
You ready for my
I'm ready.
This is my penultimate choice. And, again, we don't have to talk too long
I almost brought it.
about this, did you?
Yeah.
I was going through, I made a list for Wheels and Me of all of our essentials up until the last one, so that we can like reference it and not bring the same damn album twice, which each of us did on the same episode. And in looking at that last night when I was putting this together, I'm like, holy shit, Goodbye Yellow Brick Road hasn't been on here. And Honky Chateau is probably my like favorite beginning to end Elton John record, and I can't even remember if that's on one of the essentials. I don't think it is. But Goodbye Yellow Brick Road, double album, long songs, like, this is like the peak of his career.
Yeah.
And the title song is hands down probably one of my top 10 favorite songs ever. Just the melody and the way it's put together. I love it. And it almost brings me to tears every time I hear it.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I mean, it's when I just remember being a little kid and hearing that and wondering what the hell is this? Because it's like pop music times 10. You know what I mean? And Elton, for whatever reason, always struck a huge chord with me, because he was a very flamboyantly gay man singing piano while wearing a boa. Why wouldn't he strike a chord with me? I love everything about this. I love the music. All the songs are great. The artwork, it's just a beautiful package. The way that they used to put records together in the 70s,
And it was a double LP when it came out.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you get a lot of songs.
And this is basically what his farewell tour is based on. Obviously, Farewell Yellow Brick Road is the name of the tour. I've seen Elton probably 5 times and twice with Billy, and the two of those guys together are fantastic if they can get along. I don't think they'll ever do that again. But Elton, for me anymore, I think some of the prices that people are charging for shows are just pornographic. So I'm not. I will go to any show that I want to go to because I'm very lucky to be able to do that at this point in my life. But I'm not going to enable the industry by paying $400 to go see a show.
Yeah, I've never seen Elton John. My daughter has, which is kind of funny because she went with her boyfriend. They had tickets and she loved it.
Yeah, I think he's timeless. And,
yes.
And again, he and Billy, I think Billy is super impressive as the guy who writes, plays, sings everything himself. Elton obviously has Bernie Taupin, who's the lyricist. And the fact that these guys were brought together and worked together, and it has worked for 50 years, 55 years, it's amazing too. They're both super huge talents in their own right. I can't deny how great this record is.
Yeah,
and I've got a couple copies of this.
And I think this one came out during Elton's super creative time.
Yeah, yeah. Back again, they're releasing an album every year or every 6 months or whatever. I paid $8 for this whenever I bought it, and I'm pretty sure that was a long time ago.
Yeah. That is a if that's not on somebody's essential list,
Yeah.
you're missing out.
Yeah. I was surprised that it wasn't on one of the ones before now. So, what's your is this your last?
This will be my last, and I've got to choose.
You got to make a
And,
If it's the one I think it is, I almost brought this too.
and I'm going to do it this way because I think this has to be on an essential list.
Yeah.
CSNY Deja Vu.
Have we talked about this before?
I don't think we have, and that was another reason I wanted to pull it out.
Because I'm
is
getting some major deja vu here.
So,
Sheep laughs.
and the best thing with this record is
The cover and the texture.
Yeah,
and
the texture and the
pictures.
picture. And I mean, you open it up and you've got the band in there and all kinds of behind the scenes photos.
Yeah. It's great.
And I'm not sure, I don't know how many albums did they have with Neil Young?
I don't know. But, I mean, I can find out.
Yeah, this incarnation is really, for me, is the best incarnation of those guys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Teach Your Children.
Teach Your Children is the
Yeah.
one that,
Almost Cut My Hair, which is another classic. Helpless. That's a great song.
yeah. And that's one that Neil Young then took into his own world.
Yep.
And I think Neil Young's probably more well known for Helpless than Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young.
Yeah. It's a great record. And I've seen this as a re-release recently.
Yeah, I think it just came out not too long ago.
And there's like a alternate version of this that was a record store day thing.
Oh,
like,
really?
The last record store day where it had some different takes. It's a different color, and it obviously says Deja Vu Revisited or whatever.
Yeah.
Which is redundant, but it's a great record. I have this. I think I have this twice because I had it and then I inherited it.
Oh,
I need
yeah.
to listen to this because I always go with that first Crosby, Stills, Nash record with Sweet Judy Blue Eyes and
Yeah.
But what a great band! It's too bad these guys can't get along.
Yeah.
Because if they could, really do some serious damage on the tour circuit and charge $400 a ticket. That's a great
and
call.
Crosby's still touring.
Yeah. Actually, I just heard recently that he's going to retire from it.
Oh, is he?
Yeah. I know he's put out a new album. Like, he's put out 2 or 3 new albums in the last 4 years. He had, like, some group of young musicians.
And I know
inspired him.
he's an artist that he pisses a lot of people off.
Yeah. He's kind of a dick.
And I think, and, you could say the same about Neil Young. So
Yeah.
there were a lot of headbuttings.
There's some big personalities in that band.
Yes.
I love Graham Nash. I mean, he's still out there doing solo stuff.
Yeah, Graham's the most, and I mean, as the band began to disintegrate, it was just Nash and Crosby.
Yeah. Yeah. And in each of it, I think Stills and Crosby, Nash and Crosby, they did some albums together.
Yeah.
As just duos. And
Nash was like the George Harrison.
Yeah. I mean, it's a great record, and I don't listen to it nearly enough. So I might go home and put that on today so I can.
It's a great record to listen to front and back.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't want to just pick and hear one song.
Yeah. Some records are like that, man. Actually, a lot of records that we grew up with are kind of like that.
Oh,
because
yeah.
That's the way we listen to them.
Absolutely.
Because the last thing I want to do, even today, is take that needle and try and put it on that groove that's the third song in.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I'm just going to listen to the whole thing.
Excellent. Well, here's my final one, and there's been some
Bye-bye,
foreshadowing.
CSNY. Oh.
Yeah. It's Nirvana in Utero. This is a Back to Black version that I think came out like 4 or 5 years ago. We've basically already talked about this record. Serve the Servants, Scentless Apprentice, Heart-Shaped Box, Rape Me, Frances Farmer Will Have Her Revenge on Seattle, Dumb, Very Ape, Milk It, Penny Royalty, Radio Friendly Unit Shifter, Tourette's, All Apologies. It's just a fantastic record. And I heard Heart-Shaped Box. Actually, I think the first time I heard that song was on MTV.
Really?
The video.
That makes sense.
And the video was just crazy. But musically, I was like, damn, this is Nirvana. It kind of sounded like heavy metal. I mean, it's pretty heavy compared to their other stuff. And I bought this. I think I bought this at TIS Bookstore at Ball State the day it came out. Not this, but the CD.
Yeah.
I just love it. This to me is their record that I think of when I think of them. But like I said, I've come back to Nevermind to appreciate that too. Bands like this are kind of tricky because they're kind of an explosion in pop culture. But there's only 3 records.
Yeah, there's not that much material.
You know, there's live records that have come out, and those are really cool because did you ever see them?
No, that's probably my number one concert regret. I had tickets to Indy.
Did they play at the convention center? Or?
No, they were going to play at Deer Creek or whatever it's called, Ruoff.
Yeah.
And I had some friends who were going to Chicago, and they're like, "You want to go?" And I'm like, "I've got tickets to Indy. I better skip it." Bad choice.
Yeah, because you didn't go to the other show.
Yeah. Because the other show didn't happen because Kurt.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't have been up for seeing them when Nevermind was out or this, because until this came out, I wasn't really a Nirvana fan.
Yeah.
And then there was a short, I think this was out for 4 months or so before he died.
Yeah.
Which is tragic. But that's why, like the last 10 years, I have been going to the shows that I want to go to because
you never know how long they're going to be around.
You never know, but you also never know, how you're going to afford these tickets. I mean,
very true.
It's kind of a weird thing. Touring used to be in support of the album, and now touring is the way that these bands make money. And I get that, and that's part of the reason I want to go to shows. But I can't pay $400 to go to a show.
Yeah. Shows have gotten super expensive.
Yeah. And if you look at like inflation, like over from the 80s to now, like the first Van Halen show I saw was in 1986, 5150. I still have my ticket stub, and it was $13.50.
Yeah.
That's incredible to me. I mean, you can't go to a show for $13.50.
No, and not even a up and coming show. I mean, you'd be lucky to get in like the Melody Inn to Punk Rock Night.
Well, I mean, it feels good to be like on the down side of our essentials list. This was an idea I don't think that we necessarily thought through very well, because I think when I originally thought of it, I was like 100 albums. We can do that easily, but it's 100 albums each. So it's technically 200. It's been a lot of fun. I mean, it really forces you to kind of like go into that storage bank in your mind and go back through those memories, and kind of flip through them, which is exactly what I did last night. For this batch of records, I mean, a lot of times I'll look at my collection to find the records, but last night I just sat there and thought of the records.
Yeah, and it's, I mean, we both spend a little bit of time picking the records, and we each bring an extra one just in case.
Yeah, in case there's a crossover.
Yeah, because that's another thing we're trying to do is not have the same record and try to approach it from different avenues.
Well, and the reason I thought that it would work in the first place is because there are not a lot of areas where our taste intersect.
Right.
So I figured there would be a lot of diversity between the two of us.
Yeah.
Which is probably a nice little cross-section of most people.
Yeah.
So, well, we can't thank everybody enough for giving us a listen. we keep ticking up on downloads. We're trying to put out more shows, when we have the time. And now we have this beautiful set and this video element to the show, which eventually will get edited and, put together and hopefully throw some stuff up on our YouTube page. But, if you have any show ideas, hit us on the socials. Any feedback about the shows, if we talk too much, if we don't talk enough, if you don't like wheels, I mean, I could do the show alone. All of those things. But we also want to thank everybody out there for the support. We want to thank everybody out there for, helping us get through this weird space that we seem, to have been in for the last 2 years. And it kind of feels like it's almost normal, ?
It's getting normal?
It's getting normal. Shows are back. It's a good time. And looking back on the last 2 years, it's been, listening to music and, record collecting and alphabetizing and reorganizing that kind of helped fill the time. So, once again, music saves the day. For Wheels, I'm Jay, and we'll see you all next time around.